I'll put in chat.
Yeah, okay. So, good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure actually to start the first lecture on the chemical engineering lecture series, a new initiative that we have started during this COVID pandemic era to keep our students engaged and know about the various things in chemical engineering series or chemical engineering. And we are actually thankful to our speaker today, our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Arulmani Balasubramanian, who is the head of the projects of EMD Electronics Instruments. He is also BAIL and Sastra alumni, did his BTech here, and as you may have heard until now, has been Professor Saravanan classmate. So it is our pleasure to welcome him today. And before we proceed further, I would like to ask Dr. Rangabashyam to briefly introduce our distinguished speakers. For the sake of having a clean or a video recording session and a live streaming session, I just request all participants to mute their speakers and not to present anything in between while our speaker is speaking, just for the sake of clarity and so on. And any questions that you may have through the course of this lecture, kindly wait until the end of this lecture, so we can ask the speaker the questions at the end of the lecture. Okay, so request everybody to mute their speakers. You can also post your questions on the chat, and we will discuss that when it comes to that. So with that, I'll hand this over to Dr. Rangabashyam.
Mr. Arulmani Balasubramanian, he is the head projects EMD Electronic Instruments Limited, India. He obtained his BTech from Sastra Deemed University in the year 2001 and MTech from NIT Surathkal. Then he started his career in the Reliance Industries Limited as shift engineer and then as shift in charge. In Infor as quality analyst, senior consultant, and then as project manager. Then he come back to the education. He completed PMP in the Project Management Institute and obtained his MBA from Halt International Business School and then PMI ACP from Project Management Institute, and started working as a delivery head in the year 2017 in Crayons. Altogether, he had 17 years of professional experience with his expert in IT business solutions, defense manufacturing, supply chain management, and project management. Thank you. Now I request Professor Rajan Dean, SCBT, to deliver the welcome address. Thank you.
Hello, Rajan sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't switch on the mic. Okay. So I'll repeat once again. So good evening to everyone, especially the students of Chemical Engineering Department, and to my faculty colleagues, a very happy Teachers' Day. And it is also a very nice moment for me to briefly introduce about the speaker series that we have planned for this academic year. Generally, the students in our campus are very active. Especially in Chemical Engineering Department, we have a student chapter of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, and that acts as a forum for students to engage in co-curricular activities, organize competitions, seminars, invited talks, and during that time they would also hone their leadership skills. They would also learn how to work in a team, and they also learn the time management, planning of various tasks and so on. But unfortunately, this semester we are only in contact through online mode. Hence, such a vibrant student activity would be missing in this online space. But we did not want the co-curricular component to be lost out because of this. And we found an opportunity in this challenge. we felt that we could have industry people coming and delivering talks to our students through the online forum on various aspects of the professional life, whether it is chemical engineering or in general professional life, so that the knowledge component of that is not missing out, while the student activity part might be missing in this online mode. So with that inclination, the speaker series has been arranged for this particular semester, and this I would also like to introduce. I would also like to explain to the speaker that the number of contact periods in the semester is pretty less. So we have been advocating the reduction in the number of credits in line with the national education policy. Hence, the number of periods that the students spend inside the class is pretty less. We want students to learn themselves by doing an additional courses or taking part in research activities and so on. And again, this online semester, we are not able to provide them research opportunities on campus. So we would want that to be substituted by quality lectures from the industry people. So with that motivation, we have organized this lecture series. We are planning to have at least one lecture in every fortnight, and the students are about they are having about 20 periods of online lectures in a week. So this is going to be +1 to that, and I am sure that our students would not mind spending additionally 1 hour listening to a talk when it is from a person who is in the professional life. So with this, I would like to thank Dr. Arulmani for being with us, and Professor Rangabhashyam had already introduced about him, so I don't want to repeat it, but I am happy to have this talk inaugurated by one of the senior most alumnus of the department. Now the stage is for you, sir. Arulmani sir, please, you may take over. Sir, muted, sir. Unmute panno mic.
Muted.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible, sir.
Great, thanks. You're also able to view the, before I start, you're able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second, let me check. So the slides changing.
No, we are only seeing static slide.
Okay, let me restart the presentation.
Yeah, now it is fine. Yeah, now it has changed.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you can go to slideshow, sir, and it will change.
No, I'm just trying, it's taking some time. Just give me a second.
Yeah,
Okay,
no problem.
yeah.
Yeah, you're able to see the full screen?
Yeah, I think it is still not in slideshow, right?
No, it's in full screen right now.
Okay, it is changing it, but I think the sidebar is also there. But that's okay.
That's fine, no problem.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think it's okay.
It is okay.
1 second, so let me change. Sorry. As with all good demos, when we do the demo, everything is fine. The moment you start, then it'll throw off some funny things. Okay, I'll go for full screen.
Yeah, now it is full screen, sir. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Sorry, thanks for the patience also, everyone. As I was introduced very formally as Arulmani Balasubramanian, it's kind of a very different. It's very different and a very nice feeling that I'm again getting associated with Shanmuga or Sastra. It has been a long time, an idea from us and among our friends that we should somehow go one day down to Shastra and then try to discuss a few things with our existing team of year of students there. But always, as you guys would know in future, there'll be always some other priority things coming up. So in a way, I have to really thank what has happened. I mean, it's a kind of, if you look at positive side of what COVID has done, probably this is one of the positive sides for us. It has given a wonderful opportunity to share some of our thoughts as one of your seniors who has gone through probably a similar experience in Shanmuga 4 years. And then after that, much more interesting experience for the last few years in the professional career. So my idea today is only to interview few of you guys on what project management is about. And you guys are chemical engineers. I think most of you are in the final year or even third year or second year. You would be getting comfortable with the chemical engineering area of expertise. But then when you come out of the college, when you come to work, it's basically how you get your work done that will define how your career will progress. So I thought I'll take this opportunity to share some of our experiences and also to give a small peek view of what project management is about. And I really hope some of you you get more opportunities to work on projects and deliver very challenging project in future. Okay, so as students, when you complete your course, when you're ready for work, just to give you a snapshot how generally work is done, this is more of a light take on how work is done in any IT projects. I'm pretty sure you guys would have heard of IT projects. So this is generally how, this is internally more of a joke with the IT management guys on how we generally get a project done for a customer. So if you look at the first picture here in the top left-hand side corner, that is how a customer wants a swing. Okay, this is how a customer would explain it. But if you actually look at it, you can see different pictures. What you see is basically how each key stakeholder, meaning each role, there'll be a project leader, there could be an analyst, there could be a programmer, there could be a business guy, a consultant. Each of them, their perspective is different when they look at the same thing. And the biggest challenge, which is in any industry, be it chemical engineering, be it mechanical engineering area, where automobiles, anywhere, the biggest challenge is to make sure with the given constraints in terms of time and cost, how we deliver what the customer needs. Okay, so the customer would explain one thing, but what actually he or she needs would be something different. So, for example, in the same slide, you can see on the bottom row, right hand between last to second last picture, that's what basically a customer really wants. They want just a swing, which is of an old tire. But how they would explain is something like a 3-storied swing. How a team will understand is what you see in a various different manner. So this is why a project management generally exists in the industry, or a project management as a role or as an area of work really exists, because there is a need for a customer, and for any person or a team, when they're trying to deliver that need, there's a lot of variation in terms of what the customer wants and what he needs, what we can deliver, how fast we can deliver, and with what particular cost or money we can deliver. So there's a different types of challenges and complexities which pop up, and the role of project manager or the area of project management expertise basically tries to deliver what the customer needs. So this is a challenge, because depending on perspectives and understanding and the communication, our impression of what is required kind of changes. This is too very obvious in IT projects, but doesn't mean the other project, like probably when I say project, is you can consider something like building as a road, or building a construction, or you are building a home. Everything would be a project. Okay, so this is a why part, why I thought I should share the expertise on project management with you with you as a team today. Okay, so now we have seen why project management is required. Next, we'll try to see what project or what project management is all about. Okay, this is a definition. It's more kind of heavy in terms of this is in the English wordings, but this is basically a definition given by Project Management Institute US, which is an association which deals specifically on project management expertise. Okay, so project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or results. So any project, when we talk about project management, it's basically a temporary endeavor. So in any organization, say be it, say you're in an automobile organization, or you are in a mobile manufacturing company, or you are part of Reliance or Indian Oil, you're in the process industry, in the industry company. In any organization, the big repetitive tasks which they'll be doing, like you're producing a product, you're extracting oil, you are delivering gas, or you are distillating the whole oil to various different byproducts. All those things are come under what's called operations. If you have mechanical friends, ideally I hope they still have a fourth year subject called operation research or operation management. If you have time, have a discussion with them on that. That is something which defines on how operation exists, what are different types of operations, what is the process operation industry, what is discrete operation industry, etc. That deals on how you kind of repetitively deliver a product or a service. What project does is, if you are in a position A, you would like to go from A to B. So you want to go from A to B, that is something like a small journey you want to take or an improvement you want to take. So that step what you want to take to deliver a unique product, service, or result at the end of it. So projects are not done in a permanent basis. They are done temporarily, meaning they exist only for 3-4 months. Once you complete the product, meaning you create a unique product, result, or a service. Like for example, say you would like to, for even to organizing this particular discussion, when the initial thought, this discussion is say only this particular first lecture series, it's a temporary endeavor, meaning it's for 1 hour. So for executing this particular project for which you're delivering a result of this lecture for 1 hour, it started, personally, I know the discussion started a week earlier when Saranan called me up and asked me whether you are available for a discussion like that. So the whole effort what has been taken is only for this 1 hour, and it's only a temporary endeavor. Next time it's going to be some other lecturer, and it will be again a different set of activities you need to do for executing another unique delivery of this lecture. Okay, so this is the definition of project. Before we talk more about project management, I just want to interest you upon how work as a job, or what we try as an entrepreneur, or whatever, or any effort what we try to get, or a professional life, basically how it has kind of evolved. I'm pretty sure most of us would have heard of Industrial Revolution, right? That's when it happened a lot in the Western democracies. That's when they all wanted to move from their earlier lifestyle to doing mass production of, say, steam engines, or industrializing every aspect of their needs. It can be right from your food industry to your transport, and right to the computers what you have. Okay, but the initial stages of this industrial revolution, when people started to discover new things, invent new things, and try to, like for example, a telephone, etc. So all those discoveries had to be kind of made to a business. To commercialize it, you need to gather few more people and get them to work for you. So as always, getting few people and getting things done brings its own level of challenges. So with the Industrial Revolution, slowly when companies started to get created, there was a steam engine company, I'm pretty sure you would have heard of East India Company. So all these companies started to become big. They started to deliver a product or a service, or they started to transfer of goods. All these things they were trying to get involved in a very mass production way. Earlier it was done probably for 10 numbers. Now everybody we're thinking of say 10,000 numbers. So that brought in its own challenges in terms of how to get things done efficiently. So it started with a person called Taylor. If you Google, you will hear a lot of details on what's called Taylorism. So the initial idea of efficiency is important in work, that came up with this principle of scientific management, which was one of the papers, papers of Taylor, which he released, where the idea is to find out, okay, if somebody is going to do a work, it takes X amount of time to do a Y work. Okay, and with one person, it takes X amount with Y work to do this Y work. And for the same Y work, if you're going to have 2 person, it's going to take less than X amount of time. So that realization was kind of scientifically scientifically detailed by Taylor. At the same time, there were also other couple of people like Frank, Gillian, and Henry. They were trying to come out with the same aspect of trying to scientifically manage the work. So Taylor started with the idea of, okay, efficiency is important. Gantt came up with the logic, okay, if there are 3-4 tasks, the interdependencies of the task will determine how fast or how efficient you can work. So if, say, for example, you're getting up in the morning, you are, it's basically, say, very small menial work, like you would like to brush your teeth. So the interdependency is the available of the brush or the toothpaste, etc. Right? So for the first activity, you go search for the brush. So that is activity A. Once you search the brush, you can probably look at the paste, or for you to apply the paste over the brush, you need the availability of paste. So these are small tasks which are interdependent. So what Gantt came up with the idea, okay, there is always interdependencies in tasks, which in turn affects the efficiency. Okay. Now, Frank and Gillian again extended that in their book called Cheaper by Dozen on what is the logic between time and motion, meaning how a particular person executes a work, depending on that, how time differs. So the whole concept, what they are trying to achieve is, I have a work, if somebody has to do this particular work, till this principle of scientific management came into the picture, it depended on that particular person who's going to do the work, his efficiency, how much he is interested to do. But they wanted to make sure the consistency is there. Like if I have 10 people, one person does this job, I get a different output. When the second person does the job, I get a very different output. How to make this consistent? So that's where they were trying. So once they were kind of succeeding in the scientific management, I'm pretty sure you would have heard of Henry Ford. Okay, Henry Ford is for people who are new to, who are not much automobile geeks. Henry Ford is the founder of the Ford car company, and he is the one who kind of successfully mass produced a car. Till then, car was a luxury item, just like how a mobile was a luxury item 10 years ago. Car was a luxury item in the 1920s time frame. So T model, he came with the idea of assembly line. So all these kind of concepts and approaches change the way how we worked. So in the 1920s, you would have heard of World War I, World War II. The history of that is, okay, they all started with industrial revolution. Now people are mass producing it. So it's the same for defense industries. And then people have their own interests, etc. So once World War I, World War II came up, the concept of efficiently delivering a mass production object or a technique or a product became a very big criteria in succeeding as a nation. So there was a lot of interest before 1940s, 50s to make sure people work efficiently. Okay, but later on, I'm sorry if I'm boring with the history part of it, but just to give a highlight of why we are talking about project management, it's better you kind of know how work kind of evolved. So scientific management gave a lot of push for mass production. When you start producing in mass quantities, the issues start coming up in terms of quality, how much consistently you can deliver quality products. So that's where in the early 1950s to 1970s, one person called Edward Deming, he's pretty famous because he had written a lot of books on operation management, things like that. He came up with a logic, what's called the PDSA rule, or it's commonly also known as PDCA rule, meaning plan, do, check, and act. This is common all across any work you try to do. It can be a personal work, any professional work, your studies, any paper you're trying to write, or any assignment you're trying to deliver. You always do this. You can always do this, some major part of it very intuitively, meaning you will not be very conscious of what exactly you're trying. You will not think it through in terms of I have to do this task A, then task B. It's more of a reflex action. You will kind of do it A, B, C in a quick fashion because you are comfortable doing that particular part. So the PDCA rule is applicable all across. This PDCA rule, the total quality management approach, what you defined by 14 points, all these things help in improving the quality of product which comes in. Okay, so in this particular time frame, there was a lot of push given. The whole economy is going in mass production mode, and now there's a lot of focus on quality. So next comes a concern of there's a big area of operations, meaning you do this. You are an automobile company. Operations meaning producing automobile is your operation. That is your major operation. You try to do it as efficient as possible. So operation management became a key thing. At the same time, a new, I won't say new area, it was already there right from the way Egypt's built their pyramid. You have project management. I would say it's a critical area which came into the a lot of interest and people looking at it, trying to improve it, was project management. So any company, any industry, they have 10 products which they kind of make and deliver. So those 10 products will have a lot of operations involved. So there will be an operation group which will try to consistently make and deliver those products. And there will also be a project group which will try to improve either how fast they deliver, either the quality, or how to bring the cost of delivery, etc. So projects were done, and they'll always be done as we discussed earlier, a temporary period, because the need is for creating an improvement or creating a new change. For a temporary period, they'll be done so that there is an improvement. So that once you get the improvement, you achieve the result, and then that becomes a closure of a project. So it's a temporary endeavor to deliver unique product, services, or result. Okay. Now, projects and product. There are two different terminologies. As an introduction, I would like to just detail a bit more on that before we jump into traditional water method, Agile project manager, etc. So we have spoken about, say, iPhone as a product. Okay, iPhone came into existence because there was a need, or to put it in some nice marketing terminology, Steve Jobs had an idea. Okay, that is not true, but then still, there was a need to develop. There was a need, or there's a kind of a market which was available for developing touch phones at that time. I know most of you guys must be pretty young at that time. What I'm talking about is somewhere in 2006-07, where Nokia was really the ruler of mobile industry. Okay, at that time, so the first touch phone actually was brought out by Nokia, but Apple or iPhone, they are pretty good at tweaking things. So there was a need. Always there was a customer. There was a market available for touch phones. So that's the idea. Okay, we need to deliver a touch phone. Any product starts with a need or idea. That's the base. So when you go outside after your college degree, when you start working, either there is a need you're fulfilling, or there is an idea somebody is having, you're trying to execute that idea and make it a real product, service, or a result. This will be one of the two things you'll be doing. Apart from that, I don't really think you might be in any industry, could be IT, could be app development, anything new. Even then it starts with an idea. Okay. So say an iPhone, when it was an idea, for it to become an actual iPhone as a product, it is not a one-step effort. First thing they would need to do is a big research in terms of what materials we need to use, what kind of form factor, meaning what should be the size of the phone, what kind of technology is required to make sure the phone works. So that kind of research actually happens. Once the research is done, once they're comfortable, they try to start developing prototypes. I'm pretty sure you would have heard of prototypes because there's a lot of in terms of what you see in your mobile phones. There's a lot of prototype which is being developed. They'll do some beta testing and things like that, right? So there's a development phase where they try to do a prototype. Once they have finalized which prototype they can deliver, which prototype works as per their expectation, they'll try to pilot. Like for example, they'll not give it to the whole mass consumption. They'll only give it for selected few people, more of a sampling, like how you do in your labs. So it's more a sampling. You try to send the product, give it for a few people, ask them to try it out. Once you succeed, or once you feel your pilot samples have succeeded, then you go for commercialization. So that's when it could be a Xiaomi, it could be your Oppo. All the phones which you have, which come into your market, have to go through all these things. It may not be a phone, your geo, right from your, see the gas, the Indian gas, what you get, right from the oil or petrol, what you get. Every product which you actually see in your real life would have gone through this process. This is called product-oriented process. Or when a company does this as in a commercial scale, that's when they start doing a lot of operations. Now, where does project fit in here? Projects are across all the phases of developing a product. So when you do a research, there is a unique output you expect when you do a research. Whether this particular panel is, can this particular panel give us 240 Hertz or 320 Hertz? So that's a research work. You will have a first step where you will initiate what the work is. You'll plan for it. You will execute it. You'll always monitor and control how the plan is going, whether your work is delivered as per plan, etc. And then finally you close it. So this is how project works in the product world. Okay, I hope I have not confused you much. If you have any questions, please do type it out. We can always take it up after once we are end of the slide pack. Okay, so what we have seen till now is why product management is required, what project actually means, and difference between product and project. Okay, we also touched upon in a much more slightly elaborative way on how work has been evolved. Fine. So after Deming, when they started doing projects, etc., this is focusing more on IT. I'm extremely sorry. I know you're a great bunch of chemical engineers, but my background, if you talk me as a chemical engineer, it's only 5 years of my life I was a chemical engineer. Okay. After that, technically, if you come and talk to chemical engineer, I can give you a wonderful smile. I can talk about chemical engineering, but I am really not that chemical engineer what you might think I am. Okay. I moved on to IT business solutions. You got heard of SAP. So Infor is a similar SAP kind of company where I joined, and what we try to do is to make sure what Deming and the scientific management were trying to actually achieve through software solutions. We try to make software called like ERPs or enterprise resource planning management things to deliver those critical operations for very big companies. So that's that is basically my expertise. Once that was there, then later on I had this opportunity to look at a small defense manufacturing company. It's a family-owned company, so that's the reason why I'm with EMD. EMD is my family-owned company. So right now I'm trying to explore how we can do better in terms of delivering projects. Okay, I'm still linked a bit with IT business consulting. So forgive me for pulling you through to IT, but then you guys joined, so I can't help it. Okay. So now going into a bit more on IT technical part of it. In the IT world, when you talk about project management, they talk about two types. One is a traditional or waterfall method. The other one is called Agile project management. That's a big, I don't know what term you call it. In our days, we used to call it a big fad now. So it's a big in thing now. I don't know whether I'm telling the right word. It's a kind of Agile project management is a skill set which very many project managers are required to have, so that they get a lot of projects which needs to be managed in the Agile way. So that's the reason that particular expertise is kind of in demand for an IT project manager. Okay. So now traditional waterfall method, traditional project manager, the waterfall method, is just like, for example, you think about how you'd like to build your home. So first thing for you to build a home is you will plan to do a home. You will think about what is the area of number of rooms you would have, what kind of, whether it's going to be an independent home or a flat or an apartment, etc. So that's the planning part. So then you come out with the requirements. What you have, what you need as a home, whether it's a 3-bedroom house, 4-bedroom house, an independent villa, etc. So that you finalize the requirement, then you start executing. Meaning, if you're going to self-build it, then you're going to look at a good contractor, then start executing, etc. So traditional waterfall method happens in a sequence. So you have a requirement, you freeze the requirement, meaning you wanted to have a home. So you freeze it saying it's a 4-bedroom house. Once you freeze that, then only you go and look at what is the time required to develop or build that home. What is the cost involved, meaning how much is the budget you'll try to put. Okay, so that basically is the traditional waterfall method. If you look at our, sorry, I'm jumping slides. So if you look at how we define projects, so generally any project you take, you will have what we call the triple constraints or three constraints. It's basically common sense. Project management is not like chemical engineering. You really need to know what is the what are the different types of reactors, how does mass become energy into mass in transport phenomena. Nothing is required. It is as simple as that. So it's quite common sense. That's why guys like us who are not very great at chemical engineering jumped up to with the best opportunity we got into project management. So it's quite common sense. So you basically have three constraints for any project: scope, time, and cost. Okay. Scope is basically a requirement. What is that you want and how you want that to be executed. So that's scope. Time is when you want to deliver a product, when you want that product to be done or a project to be done, or when the requirement to be fulfilled. So what's the time? Is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 year, 2 years? And then the cost. So for a time for doing any work, there's always a cost involved. If you really want to become a wonderful engineer outside after you pass out on com, this is something which you really need to understand, learn, and also have a habit of always forcing a decision, your decision. You need to take a lot of decision, forcing a decision on whether to go forward a particular option or not. So that will always involve cost. If you're going for if you're doing a research on anything, generally the cost constraint will not be there. It's your scope. What you're trying to achieve is something new, which is not done at all. So you will try to do something which is not there. So you can never say, when I can do it in 3 months or 4 months. But as an engineer, whenever you try and deliver anything, that always involves time, and that will always involve cost. So how you are able to balance the scope for the given time within the given budget of cost will be the challenge which you will go through in your personal and professional life. Okay, so triple constraints is scope, time, and cost. How you do this in a project management in a traditional way is you first define what you want. Okay, then within what period you want. So that's the time part. So what you want is the scope part. The time part is when you want. For example, what is it you want? I want a house which is a 3-bedroom house. So within what time frame you want? You want it right now, or you would like to wait for 1 year to build it? Okay, that's a time frame. Cost is, if you want it right now, in what particular area, what is the cost? If the area is different, then what is the cost? So you would need to make a decision for buying your house, depending on all the options you like. You will have one house, 3-bedroom in a very high-end locality, one 3-bedroom house in a area which is just starting to develop. So there will always be difference in cost in these two. There's a time which will take for a particular house to be given to you after building. So all these different challenges will be there for you to think about and make a decision. So as a project manager, you would always try to judge between scope, time, and cost and try to make a decisions. The reason why they call it triple constraint is if you change your scope, time and cost will change. If you change the time in which you need, if you want to change the time, if you can't wait for 3-4 months, then 100% cost will change. So if you touch one part of them, either one of these three, the other two will have an impact. or there'll be a change, positive or negative way. Okay, so that's why it's called triple constraints. So we were looking at the traditional project method, right? So traditional project methods, when we look at Deming's rule, which says plan, do, check and act, traditional project method looks at first making sure your requirement is finalized, and then you plan for that particular requirement, you execute and then deliver. What you see on your right hand side of the screen, that logic comes from PMI. It's very similar to plan, do, check and act. That it all came from Deming's rule. So here what they say is you initiate a project, you plan, you do the planning required for the project, you do monitoring control across all the steps, then you execute and you close it. Okay, so traditional method generally follows this flow. You initiate, plan, execute, monitoring and control. Now, what had happened was then there were a lot of challenges with this traditional method. Meaning when you, for example, in a software development, you have requirement, design, implementation. Verification is when you do the testing of what you're implementing in the software. And then final is the maintenance. When you do that in a software, like for example, the phone what you use, it takes around 18 months to develop that phone. Right now, what is there in the market? So its a requirement is based on what is the phone what you have right now is based on the requirement what they designed 18 months ago, right? But would you be happy with having a phone which is based on a requirement of 18 months ago? That becomes a challenge for all the phone manufacturers, the mobile manufacturers. By the time they come out, like for example, Samsung has come out with, I'm pretty sure you know this S20 foldable phone. By the time they come out, there's also Motorola which has come out, and Samsung is trying to hide that front-end camera, but Xiaomi has already done that. So the challenge for them is how to make sure they are relevant when a final consumer decides to buy a phone. So if you want to buy a phone right now, you have Mi's phone which doesn't have the front-end camera. There's no smudge there, but you also have S20. Even though it's a very high-end phone, it still has a front-end camera, that small smudge in the top. So what is your requirement? Is it a plain screen you want, or the one with smudge you need? So you would make a decision to go for so for example, you would like to go for a one with the plain screen, no smudge at all. Samsung has lost a customer because they didn't define the requirements properly 18 months ago. So that is the challenge with following traditional or waterfall method right now in very high value or highly changing, highly customers requirement changing industry. Your mobile phones, your Airtel prepaid, postpaid connections, what you get. The reason why they keep changing and give you different models is your requirement changes. You are okay with 1 GB data 1 year ago. Now even 1 GB data per day is not sufficient. So they need to build up their setup in such a way they can give you 5 GB data. So they need to be aware. So the time in which they decide a requirement and they deliver a project, if the time is high, already they will lose a customer. So this becomes a challenge for companies who are in IT, your app developers, all those kind of product companies, and also in high-end industry like mobile manufacturers, etc. So what they are looking for is a slightly different project management approach. It's called the Agile project management approach. So what we had earlier in traditional is scope, time, and cost. You have a requirement. For the requirement, you define your requirement properly. You have a plan, meaning you come out with the time it will take. You have a structured plan. So many activities, each activity depends on the second activity in this particular manner, and then you have a cost. So it's plan driven. The Agile way is you would say every 2 weeks or 4 weeks, I'm going to release a new phone. Okay. Your scope, you're going to keep it flexible. You'll keep your time saying that every 2 weeks, I'm going to release a new phone, or say 4 weeks, I'm going to release a new phone. You will have one group of people, may say 30 people, they are only focused to deliver a new phone every 4 weeks. So your cost is controlled because you have only 30 people. There's no change. So indirectly you control your cost because you control your time. Scope, you keep it changing. Every 4 weeks I'm going to release. So first 4 weeks, say I released a phone with an LCD screen with a smudge. Now, within the second week, I come to know customers, they don't want the smudge at all. So I work in the next 4 weeks to make sure I remove the smudge and then I deliver a product. So they try to deliver quick prototyping and deliver rapid prototyping and deliver projects so that changing customer needs are addressed. So there are still a lot of projects, like if you want to do roadways, you want to do a ship, you want to build a ship, you want to build your home, you will go for traditional approach because time is not a constraint. Time is not a first concern there. Scope is a concern. Here, in Agile, the scope is managing with kind of mobiles what you have. So what the approach we try, the project manager approach is, you control the time. Every 4 weeks, your team, you force them to deliver a software, your app development. What are you seeing in apps? It can be your PUBGs, it can be your Zoom calls, or etc. Any bug which fix, generally within 2 to 3 weeks, they will release a solution. There will be a new version within every 2.5 to 3 months compulsorily. Otherwise, none of the IT product companies can survive if they can't deliver that. The reason is customers' expectation is changing, right? So this is another approach to project management, which is kind of getting very, very in demand right now. And just to give you a flavor of it, it would be something like this. Scrum is one of the approaches for Agile. So Agile by itself is a big topic to discuss. So in your traditional method, we say our requirements is fixed. Here what we do is we have say a 4-week window. We have one team and the team takes only 2 to 3 features which they can deliver within 4 weeks. They do the planning, they execute the all required inspection, they learn, they adapt it, they deliver small prototypes. So by end of the 4th week, they deliver a complete working product to the owner. This is challenging and this works till now. It's maximum, this kind of approach works a lot for IT industries, IT product industries. So your app development, your Xiaomi mobiles, whatever you look at your Oppo mobiles, what are those mobiles? They all try to look and develop in the Agile manner. Okay, so this is a kind of in thing. So what we have seen till now, just to recap, is what are projects, how kind of work evolved. Okay, how kind of the evolution of work, what is a project, a bit more on trivial constraints. We saw in detail about product and process, project processes, okay, and a bit on traditional and Agile project management. Okay, the difference, like the tradition has got scope freezed first. In Agile, time is freeze first. Time and cost are freeze first. So scope is more plan driven. Agile is value. Which feature the customer would like? If you do that and give it to the customer, then you are adding value. Okay, so this is on more on kind of scientific intro, not a scientific intro, more on the hard skills you need to have if you're looking at project management. But the main thing in project management is the softer skills. What you have here, what I've just highlighted here. So it's an art, meaning it's a softer skills which will help you. The science is what we just saw, the different, trying to have a scientific idea of how to define work, time and material. Then having a traditional approach to Agile, what is the difference? Which project, where the scope kind of impacts, what's the impact of time? All these science part. The art part is how do you manage your team? How do you communicate? How do you ensure that you're able to make 10 or 15 new guys to really work with you, and finally to deliver a project which will be kind of appreciated by everyone. So that would be the challenge. So this, I didn't want to really give you a full blast on what project management is. What I tried is to highlight kind of insights here and there of what I have seen in my professional life. I don't really expect you guys to understand everything. If you can understand the terms what you have heard in terms of waterfall method, Agile, bit on scientific management, Try to go Google it. You will learn a lot. I've also given the sources in the slides. I will share it across, I think I already shared, or again, I'll share it, the latest one also. So from my side, that's it I have. I hope I'm not really dozed you off. So I guess we are open for questions.
Thank you, sir. It was a insightful lecture, and I believe we have a few questions from our participants here. The first question actually is Rajan sir himself has asked a question. Is do we need to actually revise the project management method for Industry 4.0? So which means automation, taking into account automation and so on. Do we need to revise our project management method or process?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, sir. See, project management for 4.0, there's a big discussion on rapid development and additive manufacturing. I'm pretty sure you have heard of 3D printer. I'm also pretty sure Sastra could have a 3D printer, right?
No, so we actually have a complete lab on additive manufacturing. And Rajan sir can actually look at that.
Industry 4.0 bases on that particular challenge of making sure the prototypes are delivered as early as possible before the customer's needs and ideas change. For Agile, for the 4.0, the Agile project management is what people are kind of pushing. Again, in project management, there is no silver bullet. It depends on your team. It depends on what is their cultural background, etc. Whether they can really understand what Agile processes are, or they are tuned into the earlier traditional way of doing things. The ultimate aim is to make sure how quickly you can get delivery of product to the masses, to the consumer, or to your selected market. So when the challenge is basically to ensure if you have a team which understands the traditional approach and they are able to still deliver in 3 months, it's well and good. You can still follow. But from the fraternity of project management people, there's always a push to take something new. Agile works a lot for IT product companies because it was suggested and developed by a bunch of IT geeks. None of the business guys came into the picture. IT technical guys, they got together in Swiss Alps in one of their resorts, and they came out with the whole Agile manifesto. So that's a different story by itself. Agile is being pushed, but it doesn't mean traditional project management is not relevant for Industry 4.0.
Sir, okay, sir. So actually, Dr. Naren had this question, and I had kind of second that. He was basically asking, can Agile method, can it be used for, say, making customizable products, or like obtaining customizable products with using the same facility? Particularly in chemical engineering, at least from a process standpoint, and I will just elaborate on what Naren probably would be seeing, is let's say I have a certain facility, I am in requirement for a certain chemical. I actually project that I will be in requirement of a certain chemical, let's say for 2 months. For example, in this COVID time, we are producing a lot of propanol, isopropyl alcohol, because that is used in sanitizers. So can I use a method to customize specific specialty chemicals in chemical engineering, or is it only limited to IT?
Chemical engineering, it's not very flexible. The process what you use for one particular formaldehyde or whatever is a chemical we use to another set of chemical what you want, it is very different. If it depends on whether you can review and make sure you are it depends on whether you can review and make sure your chemical processes can be flexible. Agile, I mean, it's not Agile which will tell you. Agile, generally what it helps is, it makes you, or it forces you to develop a product within 4 weeks or 2 months, depending on how the possibility of developing a product in that kind of time frame. Agile pushes people to do that because it doesn't give a window where you can say, no, we thought we cannot deliver this product today, we will send the patch tomorrow, or we'll print the patch next week. That's not possible in Agile at all. If you're going to say every 4th week of the month Friday, the batch will be sent to the customer. If you don't send it, the customer can sue you because you're not delivering the working software what you asked for. In chemical engineering, we did have a kind of similar idea at Reliance where we wanted to modify the distillation process for crude to in terms of percentage of petrol what you're going to take, percentage of diesel what you can take. Okay, this will be kind of Reliance at the end of the day is my first love, so I'll always jump back to that. Reliance Refinery can do that as on date. Depending on the crude which comes in, they can define what kind of petrol, what grade, how much quantity it can come, sitting in one particular control room itself. The whole process from the crude tank till the I think your crude tank, I'm sorry if my memory is gone. You will have a crude distillation unit, then you will have your fluidized bed reactor, then you will have a separate distillery columns for each of the grades what you're making. There, the control room is set in such a way that the operator can give what is the composition of crude oil. Depending on that, what are the different chemicals, basically the byproducts, what you can push. So what we used to do generally in Reliance is, if the market petrol price is going to go up, we will modify our crude mixture for it. What I have seen right now is, in polymer industry, they have tried to come out with different grades of polymer, like what you're kind of proposing. In 2 months, I would have a batch process. 2 months, I deliver a particular polymer grade A. I will take a short 3-4 day to clean up my process, fine tune it a bit, then I'll start delivering some other polymer. But then that's more of a batch process. I wouldn't say that as agile flexibility.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. There's one more question from a student from Srinivas who is in his final year. He wants to know how much of man management, that is, number of workers who are working. You had mentioned something about 30 workers working together, limiting the scope, and then trying to develop the product in Agile. How much of man management in terms of hours is important is significant in terms of delivering a certain product in an Agile method? So he was feeling that man management, if it is attached to that triple constraint, can actually improve or highlight or influence the other three. So how much of man management is important?
Okay, that's a nice question. This could be a very cultural thing. We as Indians are more hierarchical in our culture. Meaning, we have our manager's manager. We will not tell anything wrong about the manager or his manager, etc. There are certain cultures where blasting your manager is the first thing you're expected to do. If you work with US a lot, everybody calls each other by names. It could be 40-year experienced guy. In IT, I'm used to call people by name. I get allergic when people call me sir. So that is kind of environment they have in the US, in US kind of setup. And the agile approach is only when you start man management, or in our industry it's called micromanagement. Only when you start trying to manage people, you will get a lot of headaches. People are not there to get managed. As a manager, your idea is to give them the required support so that they can flourish with their competencies, their skills, etc., and trust them to deliver the work. That is the concept of agile management. In agile management, you don't have a project manager in the team. You only have the team. How the team works among themselves will be decided by the team. So the biggest difference they have actually done in IT projects is they removed the significance of the project manager. So you deliver, you gather your team, you tell them this is the output I want. After 4 weeks, you figure out a way. End of 4 weeks, you just deliver me the output. And the surprising part is that works very well. If you don't try to manage people, they actually do their work. Only when they know somebody is there to carry their backlogs, they will try to sit and say, no, give you wonderful reasons. So Agile says, this is your work, you figure out a way to do it, and then deliver it. it is not, if you're not able, practically when you see it, you will understand better. None of the theory can explain how 4 people together or 10 people together can be trusted to deliver a work. But there are companies like ThoughtWorks. ThoughtWorks is the pioneer in Agile project management. They do a lot of open source projects. They are very different from Infosys, your Wipros, etc. So ThoughtWorks follows completely Agile, and they don't have anybody per se as a project manager. It's only their Agile team. They own the product what they're delivering, and they're extremely successful. So constraints is always 3. There are another 3 constraints, since the topic is also a constraint. Another 3 constraints, it's risk, quality, and resource. Now, resource is manpower constraint, meaning you need 10 people to do the work, only 8 has turned up. So that becomes 2 not being available is a constraint for you. Not whether they're doing the work, how much they are working, are they doing it fine, not that they're expecting report updates every week or every day. That is a constraint they talk about. So apart from the triple constraint, there's another 3, resource, risk, and quality. There is a term called servant leadership that is getting a lot of traction in the Agile world. I would suggest Srinivasan to Google it and learn what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. One last question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So how much of how important is project documentation? Because the one thing that you actually see in project management is you can do any number of work. The moment you ask them to document something, then everybody leaves a big sigh and say, "I cannot do this." How important is project documentation in project management?
Project documentation. Okay, if you read up Agile, they would say for process and tools. I mean, customer satisfaction instead of process and tools, or they don't really believe in comprehensive documentation. That doesn't mean they tell you don't document anything. Okay. Now, documentation, generally what my experience is, people feel it's, I don't know whether it's a formal thing, I can use term like shitty job. I think I'm using it. So it's not, people feel it's more of a shitty job to do a documentation. Okay, it's kind of a pain. You are supposed to do, you already done the work, you're saying, okay, this is how I did it, these are X, Y, Z. Another part is once you put anything in a document and finalize it, even after 10 years, somebody can pick up the document and say, why did you put this here? Okay, so that's the reason why not very many people are happy about documentation. But if you want to be a very good consultant, it can be a project manager, management consultant, any consultant. If you want to be a consultant, you have to really know how to do a very good document. It need not be 10 pages. It should be probably 1 or 2 pages because I don't know, half an hour, probably the first 5 minutes of the lecture was interesting. After that, online, it becomes troublesome to listen. Then the thoughts go here and there. It's the same with reading a document. So you have something called executive summary. That's basically a 1-pager. Anything more than that, I have not seen people read. Okay, so comprehensive or too much of documents is not required, but it has to be comprehensive. People should know what was done, so they have something to refer at the later stage when there is a requirement. Agile practices tell you, they don't tell you don't do documents. They ask you to do only documents that are really critical. Like they don't ask you to do status reports every week, but they will ask you to do delivery reports.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Now I like to ask Dr. Naren to say a few words.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Arulmani Balasubramanian, for this inaugural first talk on the chemical engineering lecture series. As Dr. Rajan pointed out in his address, the whole genesis of this series is to complement and supplement the learning of undergraduates. Now, we teach the core courses, elective courses, but the learning is not just restricted to, the career as a whole is not just restricted to this core and the elective chemical engineering courses. As a graduate moves out, he needs to prepare holistically on many other aspects. So this is one conscious effort taken by Shastra, so that we will rope in people who are primarily practicing engineers, industrialists, professionals, so that we will give a wholesome learning to the students. And I'm very happy that the first talk itself is initiated by our own alma mater, or rather a senior alumni. And I would not mind to say that chemical engineer can shine very well in every field, and that you have proven that that means a chemical engineer can easily transform from one being the core to any other field. You challenge a chemical engineer will establish that he can do it. And I think that's the first lesson. I want all the students, participants to learn it. So that's something that I would pick first from your talk. And the other is the project management. Yes, I do agree that you're talking about in terms of software delivery in products and so on and so forth. But the genesis of those product management, the very essence, can also be incorporated by students in how they prepare for a course, in how they prepare a learning, in how they prepare for their exams, how they conduct their own project, and so on and so forth. So that means it's not necessarily that it is going to be a software or a product, but I think that essence is what I would take in, and I would urge the students to also follow. So thanks a lot for spending time with us. And the Shastra is always open. So I would surely see you sometime back here in the campus with your complete batch, so that we will have a whole lot of interaction. Now I take this opportunity to thank my own faculty peer colleagues, Dr. Rajan, Dr. Rangabhashyam, Dr. Gautam, Mr. Saravanan, and Dr. Aragesan, and also Dr. Ponuswamy. He could not join today, but he was all through focusing it till afternoon, like what was going on and so on and so forth. And I thank all the students for taking time patiently coming to listen something which is beyond textbooks. Now this is something like we cannot give. This is something only like you would give. So that's, I think, probably the interest of the students. We have recorded this, and we are trying to host this on a YouTube, and so that it is benefited to all, not just to those who are there now online, but to every aspiring engineer who want to establish himself or herself in the project management. Thank you, Arulmani, Mr. Arulmani. Yeah.
Sir, you stop the recording, we can talk something else.
Yeah, I would I will stop the recordings. Yeah, just give a moment. Yeah.